Hey everyone! Now, in the last weeks I had a lot of Angular 2 stuff going on this channel. And while I really enjoy Angular 2 and I work a lot with front-end frameworks on my client projects, I also work a lot on the server side when I create, server-side projects. And I'm not talking about setting up RESTful services or anything like this. I'm just talking about, plain simple websites which have their code on the server written in my case, PHP, because I mostly work with PHP. And that's the point I want to talk about. I'm using Laravel, which is a very modern and not too old and very cool PHP framework I'm using in my projects. Now I thought it would be a nice idea to share some videos on Laravel too, because hey, there might be people out there who want to get into Laravel or who just want to up their development skills or what they can do a little bit. Because if you're just able to write PHP, well, you will have to do a lot of work on yourself that a framework will already solve for you, probably safer. And overall, in my opinion, it makes developing websites a lot more fun, and you wouldn't be able to handle complex projects if you weren't using a framework of some kind. It doesn't have to be PHP framework, could also be Ruby on Rails, but yeah, frameworks are there for a reason, and so we should use them. Now, in this video and the next videos, we'll create a nice little Laravel application, which won't be too complex, but which will already showcase some of the strengths and of the main features of Laravel. So we'll create a little social network, so to say, where we can on the one side sign up and log in and then post things, and we're able to read like a global timeline of all people where we then can just like or dislike their posts. So kind of a Facebook Twitter mix, you could say, I guess. So we'll start by installing Laravel, which is real easy. I assume you already got a development environment. That means you got a web server, a PHP interpreter, and MySQL. If you haven't, in the description below you'll find some links which will get you started, and you will see it's really easy to install packages which include all the things you'll need. So as I said, I assume you already got your development environment, so let's just dive in, install Laravel, and get started with our app. Oh, and by the way, I don't have that app finished as of now, so I'm doing that blindly with you together, because I'm pretty sure that is where you learn the most, or where you can see making me mistakes, or sometimes not being 100% concentrated, and you'll see, hey, that is a thing I have to watch out for. That is something which, can get overlooked easily. So see you in the videos. Hey everyone, so I'm finally sitting at my desk. And before I get started, a little information for all the people who already know a little bit about Laravel, who are familiar with how to set up Laravel and with the folder structure of Laravel. You might want to skip ahead, and you will find a link up here, which will get you there. Because now at the beginning, I will quickly install Laravel, and then I will talk about the folder structure and how Laravel works. Just a very quick roundup. So you may skip ahead, and then we'll meet later in the video, or we'll start with our real application. See you there then. For all the people who are still there, now be aware that, as I said at the beginning of this video, the setup of your development environment will not be included in this video, but you will find useful links in the description, and I promise it's really easy to get going. Now I'm here in my empty folder, and I will install Laravel through my terminal using Composer. Now, if you don't know what Composer is, and you probably don't have it, then just Google for Composer. And on getcomposer.org, you'll be able to download it. And as it says here, Composer is really just a dependency manager for PHP. So a framework like Laravel, but also a lot of packages, they state which dependencies they have, because the guys from Laravel didn't write all the code themselves. They used existing packages, and then you state it in like a special file, a JSON file specifically, and Composer is a software which will then scan through that file, find your dependencies, find them in the internet, the most recent version or the version you specified in your file, and download it get everything in your folder so that you're ready to start. So a really helpful tool for managing your dependencies. I already have Composer, but if you don't, as I said, just download it here, follow the instructions you see here, and then you should be good to go. Now what I'll do, I'll just open up my terminal here, and I will execute Composer, create project, and then the project is Laravel/Laravel. This will install it, and I specify prefer dist to make clear that I want it to be downloaded and installed in this folder here. So now Composer will get going, and as you can see, it is now installing Laravel, and it's fetching, it's downloading all the dependencies I'll need, and that will take some time. So I will see you once this is finished. So my setup just finished, and if I just reload this, refresh this folder here, we can see that we get all these files and folders here. Now they're inside the Laravel folder, that's just the default, and I will just move them up one folder. I simply do this by typing mv for move, Laravel, everything that is in the Laravel folder, just to the current folder. So yeah, that worked, and now I must check here. Yeah, now that left out those dot files here, those are important too, so I'll just manually move them up so that my Laravel folder is actually completely empty. Now that should in theory work. Yeah, so now I can get rid of my Laravel folder here, and now I'm good to go. Now to see if that worked, you want to fire up your browser and navigate to wherever your local development environment is bound to. So either to specific host if you're bound to that. So wherever you normally navigate for your projects, and there you want to navigate to your Laravel folder, and then you have to target the public folder. That's important. If your URL, or if you're just navigating to this Laravel folder, you won't see anything, or just an error, because Laravel is serving its files from this public folder. So another way would be to set it up such that your server is already pointing to the public server, and all your application files, so to say, are one directory above it. So that would be how you set it up on a web server. So I'll go to my file here, and now you should see this Laravel 5 message, which means, hey, it was successfully installed. Now, by the way, if that was a little bit too fast for how to set all that up, again, please look in the description. There will be useful links provided there. So let me close that, and that is our very first Laravel application, the default we see when it's starting up. Now let me quickly guide you through all these folders and files we got here. We got our app folder. This is where we will write the majority, or all our business logic will live in this app folder. We will set up our routing or controllers in this folder. The bootstrap folder is something we won't touch most of the time. In the config folder, we got several parts of our Laravel application which we can configure, like for example the authentication package or general configurations for the whole app. At the moment we don't have to do anything here. In the database folder, there we can use a very cool feature of Laravel, namely one to create database migrations, which are PHP files which define or declare how a table in a database should look, so which fields it should have and how these fields are configured. So stuff you normally would do either through like a graphical interface like phpMyAdmin or directly through SQL. In this case, we can write a PHP file and then use the Laravel command line tool, which we'll see soon, to execute that file, and that will create all the SQL code we need and will automatically write it into the database. So a very easy and intuitive way of setting up a database. So that's one of the greatest features, in my opinion, of Laravel, or a very great feature at least. The public folder is something we won't have to do much there. However, we will soon set up our source directory for our CSS and JavaScript files. In our resources folder, we got this assets folder where we could use SAS or SCSS if we wanted to, and Laravel ships with a default gulp file here and an app CSS file. So if you want to use it, it's kind of built in, but I will get rid of that and I will use either my own gulp file or my own gulp workflow, or I'll just, in this tutorial, I'll just write pure CSS. So, but we could use this assets folder to have the uncompiled version of our CSS and our JavaScript and set up our gulp workflow or whatever you're using to copy them into a source folder in the public directory there. In the language folder, the lang folder, we can set up translation files, so to say. So if you look in one of those files, it's basically an array which has a key and then the text to be displayed. And we could specify additional languages here, obviously, and we would have to need each file and each key then for every language we want to specify so that we can provide a perfect translation. But we'll stick to English in this application here. Now the views folder, that's a very important one. Here we will create our views, so what gets rendered to the screen. Laravel ships with its own templating engine, the Blade templating engine. That's why this file is called .blade.php. And that's basically just a templating engine, like you might know others, like Smarty, for example, where you create your views from several components, which are then stick together, and you have a very structured way of accessing data you might pass into those views. So that's a cool thing too in Laravel, and all our views will live in this views folder here. And as you can see, it currently has this welcome view, which, if we have a look at it, it just says Laravel 5, and that's exactly the view we're seeing here. It also has, I think, one error view it already has defined. And here in this vendor folder, if we were to install additional packages, those packages might publish views, which are part of the package, which would then go also in that vendor folder where we could edit them if we wanted to. Because we should never, ever, and that is the vendor folder. If I briefly skip those two, I'll come back to them in a second. In the vendor folder, all our dependencies live, all the packages we're using live, including the Laravel framework, including the Laravel framework itself. You can see it here. And we never want to touch anything inside here. That are the files as they were installed by Composer, and those will only be changed if we run Composer update or anything like this. Yeah, we might install new and also remove unwanted or unnecessary packages, but we should never mess with any content here because it will be overwritten if we run an update, and we don't want to do that. Also, if we mess something up there, it might be very hard to find that out. So most packages, or all packages that want you to edit stuff, will add a possibility for you to use a certain command in the Laravel command line interface. I will show you that in a second, which will publish all the things you should be able to change into one of those folders here. So that's very important to keep in mind. Now, the storage folder here, that holds, for example, the cache of your app, and that's generally it. Also, some files might be stored there. What the name says, it's a storage. And the tests folder, well, that is if you're running unit tests, well, you will do that in the tests folder. So that have been all the folders. Let's briefly talk about those files, and don't worry, I'm not going to go through every file. To be honest, I'll only talk about two files. The first one is the .env file. That file provides some basic configuration for our app. For example, we'll set up our database connection here, and if we were to use mailing, we would also set up our mail server here. So additionally to our config files here, That's like the quickest way to set up some basic connections mainly, as you can see. And the artisan file, well, that is not important on its own, but the artisan file or command is like the command line tool of Laravel. And we access it by writing PHP artisan and then whatever command, and we will have a look into those commands obviously throughout our application. We can, for example, create new models or database migrations. Speaking of models, migrations, views, and controllers, Laravel is a MVC framework, as you might have probably guessed by now. And as such, we have that strict separation between a view, a model, and our controller. And this is how we will structure our Laravel apps. Enough of the talking. We got our Laravel 5 view here at the moment. And as I said, I want to build an application where we have like a mini social network. We have a stream of posts, and we can post or create posts ourselves. And we will be able to see all the posts of all our people posting things. We can then like and dislike those posts. And we will be able to sign up or sign in if we are already signed up. So what are the core features we have? Well, we need a database to store our users, to store our posts, and to store our likes and dislikes. So that's one thing. We'll also need some kind of authentication logic, because our users should be able to first sign up, and then when they were created, they should be able to sign in. And we also need to be able to check for certain functions to be available if the user is signed in. So that's something which we will have to take care about, this authentication thing, and you will see we won't have to take care about that much because Laravel got us there. So we have to create our different views for posts, for signing up and signing in, for creating posts. So a lot of stuff where we're using models, controllers, views. We'll have routing because we'll have different views where we have to route to depending on the user action. We obviously, as I said, have authentication. We might throw in maybe, let's see, some mailing, that we get sent a mail when we sign up. So even though it's not the most complex application out there, it already has quite a lot of features you will see in day-to-day applications out there. So now, enough of the talking. Now, that video is already quite long. What I want to do is first, let's dive a little bit deeper into those views I mentioned. So we got our welcome view here, and we will have kind of a welcome view in our final application too, which will basically say that we should log in, right? Because we only want to be able to see posts if we're logged in. So kind of Facebook. If you're not logged in or not signed up, well, you're not able to do much. Yeah, there are public pages, but in our application, we'll only be able to see something once we're logged in. So we should maybe just edit this default view a bit, so that it is not the final version, because we will need some styling and that will take a little bit longer, but just so that we feel the direction we're going to. So let me first get rid of all that here, and of the container div too, and here of the styling. I won't need that font here. What I want to do is, and that's the first thing about Laravel views, or about the templating engine more, I want to have a skeleton file, like a basic layout, which I can then reuse in my different pages. Because my you should login page will be an HTML5 document, it will require my styling sheet and so on. So basically this skeleton here, that's the same for each document more or less, right? And there might be other parts, like for example a header, which will be the same for many pages at least, and so on. So what I want to do here is I will create a basic layout, which my different views can then extend and pull in the functionality or the document structure provided in that layout and add additional information or the real core of the view to it then. So therefore, I'll just copy all of that. I'll create a new folder in my views folder, which I will call layouts. And inside this layouts folder, I just want to create a master.blade.php. And it's important. You have to use .blade.php if you want to use the Blade templating engine. You don't have to use that. You can write normal PHP code. But in this course, we will use it because I'm a fan of it. I like it. I think it's a really cool way. It makes things easier. It's well thought. So yeah, I like it. In this master file here, let's just copy the skeleton I just copied here. Get rid of it in the welcome view. And in my master view here, first what I want to do is the title. It's not really part of the master layout, but it should be inserted by the individual view, right? Because we will have a different title in the please sign up document and a different title in that are all posts document. So therefore, we kind of have to provide a hook in the skeleton here. And we will use a Blade templating function, so to say, or expression, which is the following: at yield and then title here in the quotation marks. And that's a typical Blade templating engine expression. They always start with an at sign. So that means, hey, here comes a Blade templating expression. Then comes the special command or the function we want to use. So in this case, it's the yield function, which says here should be something should be inserted here. I'm a placeholder, so to say. And then we have a name for the placeholder, which is title. And in our other views, we'll be able to access that title through this placeholder name here and actually insert our content. And we will do that in a second. Because we'll obviously also need this in our body here, right? Because especially in the body, we'll need to insert our actual content. What I'll do is I'll create a container div, which will be wrapped around our content all the time, so that hasn't to be part of the actual view, what will be inserted here. And then again, I use yield, and I'll give that a name of content. And obviously those names are purely up to you. You could name this Sugar Boy if you wanted, but I think title is a little more intuitive, maybe. So here our content will live. Let me save this. And if I go to our welcome view, I will now have to extend this master layout. And I will do so by writing extends, again, a Blade templating expression. Then the path to the file we're extending from. So in this case, it's in the layouts folder. So first I write layouts, followed by a dot to kind of access that folder. And then I have my master file. And I only write master without .blade.php. So always leave out that .blade.php part. So that extends from that file, but I'm not inserting anything. Now, if I'm just writing like that, I won't insert into specific sections of the layout. I target a section by using another expression, at section. And here I specify which section. And now the key I enter here, for example, title, always has to fit the key of the section, here defined with the yield function, where I want to enter my content. So I'm entering my my title section here, and I'm closing it with end section. And this will tell Laravel, or the Blade templating engine, that everything between the opening section and the closing section tag, so to say, will be inserted right here, instead of that add yield title. So here we will have just welcome. Now I'm going to copy that, and below title, I'll do the same for content. And I'll just write this as the content. Save this. And now I'm inserting this into the section content, which is in my layout defined here with yield content. So if I now reload my view here, we will see that we got welcome exclamation mark as the title of this page, and this is the content as the content. And now, while that page doesn't look super awesome, what we did is very interesting and very foundation of using views, at least when using the Blade templating engine in Laravel, which allows us exactly that, to define a skeleton and then just use components to create our view. So we might have another file where we have a different content and we could just copy that and throw in the other content in the other file. So that's the real powerful feature of the templating engine. And as I said, I really like it. And it's enabling us to quickly create and also change views. And you only have to make changes in one place because you're not copying code over and over again, because don't repeat yourself. Very important paradigm. Okay, so that's quite a long video. 30 minutes or something like that, 25 I guess. But I think that was very important. Now we're familiar with the structure of Laravel, how to use the Blade templating engine, and where to edit files to actually change what is displayed here in our browser. In the next video, we'll get going with our actual application and we'll start building that. So see you in that video and have a nice day. Bye.